Welcome to Unselfishly Me, a podcast all about self-love, self-care, and everything in between. I'm Jane, a personal trainer with a focus on self-love. Each week, we'll be chatting to someone about their self-love journey, how long it took, and what it took to get there. Welcome to the Self-Love Club. I'm so excited to have you guys here. It is something that I've been planning for a long time, and I just needed to find the right way to package it and to put it on a platform. So it is finally here. Things take time, and the right thing always comes along. So I'm so excited to have you here with us, no matter what tier you're on. It is just such a sense of community, and I just love that I can help so many people at the same time. So every month, the second tier is going to have a webinar with one of my favorite people, and we get to learn and ask them questions. And it's just going to be something so amazing to create community and to help us all learn something new. So I'm going to be introducing you to them each week so that you can see who is going to be coming on. And I'm really excited to share these people with you. Each month is themed. So the guest who is on the webinar is going to be talking about their speciality in regards to the theme. So each month is going to be completely different, and it's going to just be something that is completely special, unique, and it's just going to be such a sense of community and of healing in regard to what they do as well. So I'm really excited about this collab. Okay, so for our first month of the Self-Love Club, I'm so excited, and obviously it would be you as our first guest, my kinesiology guru, Janelle. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
You're going to be our guest for this month, and we are talking about trauma. So we're just thinking that South Africa is going through a trauma. KZN, Gauteng, the whole of COVID, basically the whole world. And other people have trauma, whether it's relationships, whether it's from childhood, parents, a loss of parents, of partner, of child, just grieving in general. And I think people don't realize the power of how we actually store trauma in our body. I mean, I stored it in my neck from a car accident from when I was 19, and it just kept on seizing. And then Janelle figured it out. What happened when you were 19? And I was like, I don't know. And then we traced it to that, and I still had whiplash, and the trauma was stored in my neck. And every time I just kind of had a twinge, my whole body would just seize to protect me. So I think kinesiology really can help with, I've experienced it with trauma. So how do you think that it helps, and what can you do for people as a kinesiologist?
You know, our bodies are such incredible things. They remember everything. And sometimes when something happens, we go into something that's called like a default behavior stress. Okay. So for example, that example that you used with the car accident, your body remembered that stress and stored it in your neck. And every time you put your system in that same position, that trauma is triggered. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it kept on happening every time I flew. And when you sit and you near someone, but you don't want to be near them. So you move your knees away. And then my knees were that way. My back was this, it was just awkward positions. And it just kept on twinging.
And that's a perfect example of a physical manifestation of trauma. But of course, as you know, there are so many different ones: mental, emotional, physical. There are actually 4 responses to stress that people don't realize: fight, flight, freeze, and one that we call fawn. And it's interesting, my observation with everything that happened in Durban in the past couple of weeks, people kind of went into that space of helping others, of supporting others. And although it was a good reaction at the time, it was required, I do wonder what's going to happen a month, 2 months down the line when they haven't actually acknowledged their own stress and their own trauma that they went through in that experience.
You said that to me. You're like,
yes.
I'm going to challenge you now for PTSD. And I was like, I think you're right. I think we didn't realize. And I went into that mode because I was just on the Tuesday already, we need to raise funds. I need to help. How can I help? I'm not patrolling. What can I do? And there's me contact, Zapper. Here, everyone, social media, come and help.
And I have to add that every single response is appropriate. There's no right and there's no wrong. It's just about how we choose to do it at that time. But what's important is to actually work through the trauma then at another stage, so it doesn't remain in the system. Because I'm sure you've experienced, if you hear a loud noise at the moment or something drops, you instantly kind of get a shock through your system, and that's part of that trauma still sitting in your system, in your body.
I've got lots of work to do, basically, yes.
Yeah.
Doing an angel reading yesterday or the day before, and luckily she's a Durban girl, So, and I heard our like wooden gate here like slammed. It was so loud. I thought there was an explosion again. And I had to say on camera, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I got such a fright. And then my heart was pounding for like 5 minutes afterwards. And I was just like, not normal.
So that's a perfect example of how, the trauma is actually still in your system. So we can work through it with a kinesiology balance, figuring out where it is. And these emotions even get stored in your meridian system, and in clearing it and kind of creating awareness and then letting it go through something we call emotional stress release is kind of what brings the body back into healing again.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to book another session. Yeah, but I think also it's so good to acknowledge these things and know that it can be helped, and that there are ways of doing it. So we will be talking all about those ways when you come on to the community call, which is going to be on tier 2. I'm really excited about that. So many people have already expressed so much interest in joining the tier 2 because I've just named all of you and who's going to be coming on, and they're really excited. So I'm excited that they're excited.
I'm excited.
So yeah, obviously. Oh, no, it's going to be so, I think it's all going to be so empowering. I think there's so many tools to learn that people, and maybe people have been scared to book a kinesiology appointment because they just don't know what it's about.
A lot of people think it's quite out there and quite strange, but the reality is we do work with physical things like this and trauma, and it's an incredibly useful tool to release it, and to release it quickly as well. It's not hours and hours of work and hours of sessions. It's usually quite instant. People tell me that they feel a huge relief from it.
I remember with my neck, and literally afterwards you were like, how does it feel? And it was like 90% better. Literally, I mean, we just done the balance in that hour. And then by the next day it was fine, which if I hadn't known to come to you and I'd gone to physio, I would have kept treating the symptoms and not the cause.
Yes, exactly. And physio has a place. I'm not taking away from physiotherapists. They are incredible. It's just that you have to go to that underlying issue of why that's happened, understand that. And when your brain has that awareness, you make that connection. And that's what makes you able to release it.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like whenever people have an ailment and then I say to them, okay, they say, do I go to a bio, do I go to a chiro or a physio? And then you have to I have to dig deeper and say, okay, what is it? And also recommend physiology. But sometimes there's something that they want to do, and the physio would only just treat the symptoms and not the actual cause. Like the muscle imbalance would be better off going to a biokineticist who does rehab on injuries and muscle imbalance, all that kind of stuff. So I think, and also in the wellness and holistic wellness area, there are so many different things that they all complement each other. So it's just finding what works for you and what the actual problem is, and pinpointing it and then helping to release it. Like trauma. I feel like everyone listening has some kind of trauma. We all have some kind of trauma.
We do, absolutely. And also our childhoods and significant experiences that we have in our life is what shapes us and what moves us forward. So if you don't release any significant event, and it doesn't have to be extremely traumatic, it can even be something like a car accident or being bullied at school. Those things all remain in our system, and the moment something else similar happens, it triggers that same response that you had at that time.
It's about bullying and stuff, and that is massive right now. Cyberbullying for like little kids as well, so that's something also parents need to watch out for. I think you don't think it bothers them because they look they're being
but it does.
They're so strong, and you're like, actually I'm battling,
And it's also all relative. I think us as adults and us as parents look at events and we go, oh, you know what, it's not so bad. So and so calling little Johnny names, he'll get over it. But the reality is, in a child's life or a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old's life, that is what's happening in the environment, and it is traumatic for them.
And for them, that's the biggest thing that's happening in their life. They don't have stress and things that we have. So for them, that is huge. It's massive. It's like Pepe crying because she can't reach a toy or something. In her life, that is like the most traumatic thing that has happened today. So it is relative. And I also think it's that whole thing like, don't judge a person for how much they're doing because their plate might be smaller than yours, and think, how much they have on their plate. Your trauma might be different to mine. Like someone's might just be a car accident and someone else's is being in a physically abusive marriage for 10 years. But to that person, it's the equivalent, because that to them is like the biggest thing that's happened to them, and that trauma response is obviously massive as well. So I think it's quite interesting to when people see this and hear on the call, they'll probably be like, I don't have any trauma, I'm fine. And then you'll say something and they might click and be like, oh, actually, I didn't realize that affected me so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's different levels of trauma. And sometimes, something else might be appropriate. But it's important about getting an understanding about what is there in the system.
Kind of digging a little bit as well. I think we don't like to do that. We kind of compartmentalize and just push things down. Whereas it's time to dig that all up and actually clear it and acknowledge it. I think that's the whole thing with the shadow self as well, is we don't acknowledge those sides of ourselves. So with trauma, it's probably the same. I'm sure that you actually need to acknowledge
it. Is, yeah. And you also feel guilty about verbalizing that I'm experiencing trauma. I think in society, we're always told we have to be tough, we have to just carry on. And in South Africa in particular, when something significant happens, we get told, oh, you're so lucky, you didn't get raped, you didn't get murdered. But the reality is somebody still came into your space and invaded everything and destroyed your business. That is significant, and that is traumatic. So in the call, when we do the Self-Love Club, I'm going to go through how to release every single stress response for fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. What are the things that you can do as a person to help you yourself through those things?
Amazing. I will be taking notes. I'm so excited, and thank you for agreeing to this. And I know that they are going to get so much value out of it, and even me, I'm excited knowing what you do for me every time I have a session. So just knowing that I'm going to listen in and what I'm going to learn, I'm excited for all of them to experience your magic as well.
Thanks for listening to Unselfishly Me. Follow us on Instagram at unselfishlyme and check out our website www.unselfishlyme.com.